Good morning. Saturday, August 14th. This morning I want to talk about getting paid, the amount of money that companies will offer you to do a particular job. And I believe that a person is entitled to a fair salary and a fair amount of benefits, which may include vacations and health care and several other things, maybe maternity leave and child care and a bunch of other things that could be considered benefits and could also be considered part of your pay. But I am against this raging thing that seems to be going through the high-tech industry, Facebook, Google, Twitter, and Silicon Valley, of paying people based upon where they live. And that's a form of insanity. It's a form of dictatorship in a way. Why should somebody who lives close to the office make more money than somebody who lives further away, or vice versa? What has where you live got to do with how much you're entitled to work? What if I want to piss my money away and live in an expensive neighborhood? That's my prerogative. I shouldn't have to worry about the company worrying about where I live and how much they pay me to cover the cost of living. Are we going to start paying people based upon where they live in a nice neighborhood or a poor neighborhood? If a guy is lucky enough to live in a rent-controlled apartment, should he make less money than somebody that chooses to live in the suburbs and pay high taxes and send his kids to what he thinks are better schools? Is that what we've come to? Where you live determines how much you get paid? Not what you can do. Who cares what you can do? We assume you can do the job, but what if you're great at that job? What if you deserve 10% more than everybody else because you produce twice as much as everybody else? And then you're going to take that away because I choose to live in a nice neighborhood far from the office, maybe along the beach? And are you going to reduce my pay because I can work in my pajamas? It's crazy. It's crazy, and I don't know who the people are that come up with these ideas. They want to save money, and I can understand if they're allowing you to work from home. The fact that you're not commuting, you can make an adjustment for that, but don't make an adjustment just because you live far away. When an employee lives far away from the office, they are paying a penalty in the time it spends them to get to work and the inconvenience that it may cause for the rest of their family because of the hours that a person spends commuting. But when you look at a pay chart that Google happened to allow out into the public domain, it showed that an employee who was living in Stamford, Connecticut, and it took an hour and 15 minutes to get to work by train, was going to get a 15% pay cut because of the commuting time or whatever. But a person who was living in New York, 10 minutes from the office, would not get a pay cut or would get a very small pay cut, say 5%. Does that make any sense to you? Doesn't make any sense to me. They're doing the same job. They should make the same amount of money. How they spend their money is not your problem. You should be paying what job is worth. You get a candidate, say, with a PhD and who is a wizard at the job, doesn't matter where that person lives. They are contributing. If they come to work every day on time, they're contributing. If they work from home, you might make an exception. You might give them a little bit less money because they're not spending a certain amount of money. But I don't think that should be any business. I don't think that should be at all factored into the fact. Working from home is not necessarily easy. There are distractions. There are many things that go on during the day that you would not see if you were in the office. So I don't think that working from home necessarily is a big benefit. And a lot of people can't take it because there's a camaraderie in the office. And maybe people should get paid more money for working from home because they've lost the camaraderie. They lost the communication. They're not close to the action, so to speak. They're left out there in cyberspace to make decisions. And if they're making the correct decisions, why are you cutting their pay? So it seems very unfair to me that where you live will become a factor in the amount of money that you're able to earn. Google has a pay calculator that determines the salary that you should receive depending upon where you work. So if you're working in New York City and you're living in New York City, you get a certain amount of money. You get paid X. Now, if you decide at some point in time that you're going to work remotely, even though you may have been working remotely around New York, but you move to North Carolina or someplace where it's less expensive to live, then you would get a pay cut. Is that fair? The next thing they'll do is they'll check on where you're spending your money. So if you choose to go to a cheaper doctor or you choose to buy your food in a less expensive supermarket, like Lidl, as opposed to going to Junta's, they could deduct that from your salary too. Well, this guy shops in cheap places. He doesn't go out to dinner, so we'll reduce his salary. What is he spending his money on anyhow? It's ridiculous. This entire thing about pay by location is ridiculous. Paying by job is what's important. Benefits are important. Health care, maternity leave, vacation time. Those are the things that Google should be worrying about, not about where an employee works from. Now, one could say working from home is a detriment. The environment may not be as good as working in the office. Maybe they should get more money for working from home. Of course, that would never enter their minds. So I think this entire thing about pay by location is madness. It's a step in the wrong direction. The last thing you need is a group of unhappy employees. And who's to determine what that salary cut should be? If I live in Connecticut, there are poor areas in Connecticut. There are also expensive areas in Connecticut. Are we going to have a map of the country that says if you live in this poor area and you're lucky enough to have a rent-controlled apartment or something, you should get less money than somebody who couldn't do that or wouldn't do that? I think not. I think this entire thing is really a step in the wrong direction. Even though it's running rampant through the Silicon Valley and in the high-tech areas. They should know better. But then again, they have the jobs that people want to do. And the people that want to do those jobs that should be considered valued employees, and we shouldn't be screwing around with their pay scales. So that's all I have for this morning, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.